Startup India Seed Fund Scheme is not just a flagship government initiative, but a major means to secure funding for startups, especially during their crucial initial stages. If you are wondering how to get funds under this scheme, watch this video till the end. Hi, I am Tushar Bakshi, a startup advisor at Setindiabiz, where we provide tax, compliance, and IPR services to businesses in India. When you hear of funding for startups, the first thing that comes to your mind is seed fund, and rightly so. Seed funds are provided to startups much before they begin generating revenues and get established in the market. It is usually required for the phase when startups are beginning to develop their proof of concept or product prototypes for validation from target consumers eyeing their first commercial launch. Financial support at this stage rarely comes from the private sector, as startups have no revenues to offer a decent return on investment. This is where the government comes to the rescue and offers lakhs of funds to eligible startups just to set their foot in the market. Specifically, the scheme under which the government provides seed funds to startups is called the Startup India Seed Fund Scheme. It was introduced in the year 2014 and since then has helped thousands of startups grow and achieve success. Before we proceed further with this application process, let's first understand the major benefits it offers and the reason behind its significance. Benefits of Startup India Seed Fund. Startup India Seed Fund allocates lakhs of worth of funds for startups at different stages. For instance, a startup can receive up to rupees 20 lakhs worth of funds in its ideation and validation stages. These are the stages where funds are required for proof of concept development, prototype development, and conducting product trials among target consumers. The funding amount can be increased up to rupees 50 lakhs if a startup is looking forward to commercially launching its products for the very first time or upscale its business to new heights. You must note here that these funds are not granted all at once, but are released in installments. The first installment is generally released after the application is approved. However, subsequent installments are released only after the startup submits its progress report to the concerned authorities. This milestone-based approach to funding gives startups a motivation to achieve continuous growth throughout their lifetime. Even the dispersal of funds under the scheme is quicker than you imagine. For instance, the government gives only 60 days to incubators for completing the dispersal of first installment from the date of application's approval. Incubators are legally bound to do so. A failure to comply with this rule may result in legal consequences. Coming to the application process, the biggest benefit is that it is free of cost, without any hidden charges applied. Also, the selection process is extremely transparent and involves several stages to avoid conflicts between concerned authorities. Hopefully, these benefits aptly highlight the significance of seed fund scheme for modern-day startups in India. Let's now understand a startup's eligibility to apply for seed funds. Eligibility for startups under the Startup India Seed Fund Scheme. Eligible startups are selected by DPIIT appointed incubators. However, the criteria for selection are defined clearly under the Startup India Seed Fund Scheme. Let's discuss them one by one. Number 1. Startup must be an incorporated entity. Either a company, LLP, or a registered partnership firm is eligible for Startup India Seed Fund. Number 2. Startup must be recognized by the DPIIT. You can watch our detailed video on how to get DPIIT recognition for complete information. Link is given in the description box. Number 3. Startup must not be older than 2 years since incorporation. Seed fund application can be filed within the 2-year window after a startup's incorporation. Number 4. Startup must have at least developed a proof of concept or product prototype before filing seed fund application. Allocation of seed funds are based on these factors and considerations only. Number 5. Startups must have innovative products. A startup is meant to disrupt old methods and introduce novelty in the markets. This is a major criteria not just for seed fund but for startup recognition as well. Number 6. Incubators prefer startups belonging to certain industries when allocating seed funds. These include sustainable development, food and agriculture, energy, defense and space technology, healthcare, and so on. Number 7. Startups must not be a prior recipient of government grants under the seed fund scheme. Moreover, startups that have already received grants exceeding Rs 10 lakhs under any scheme will also not be eligible. Lastly, number 8. Foreign entities are not eligible for the seed funds since they are not recognized by the DPIIT. Seed fund can only be allocated to startups having more than 50% Indian shareholding. All the criteria we just discussed must be met before filing the seed fund application. A failure to meet these criteria might lead to your application getting rejected by the incubators completely. However, this might not be the only reason for rejection. An inadequacy of documents submitted with the seed fund application may also reduce, if not completely eliminate, the chances of getting funds from the government. So, that's what we will discuss next. Documents required for Startup India Seed Fund application. Seed Fund application is an online form, so all the details are filled out and documents are attached digitally. You can see a table on the screen with the entire list of documents. Let's go through them one by one. The first one is the Certificate of Incorporation. This document is not required to be submitted with the other form, but the details mentioned in it like SIN number and date of incorporation have to be filled out. Similarly, you also need to fill out the business PAN, details of registered office address, details of products and employees. Moreover, your exact deployment plan, if seed funds are allocated, also has to be specified in the form. The only document you need to submit is the proof of authorization of the applicant. For this, you can submit either an authorization letter, a power of attorney, or a board resolution if the startup is registered as a company. Another important information you need to fill out in the form is the incubator preference. You can select any 3 incubators you want to submit your form to. Only the incubators you select will receive your application and decide over its final approval or rejection. Now, this completes our discussion on the requirements of seed fund application. You must be wondering as to what the filing and selection processes are. Let's try to understand it. How to apply for seed fund application. Seed fund application process is completely online. The first step is to access the form on the Startup India Seed Fund website. I have given a link to the website in the description. Register on the website with your login credentials. You can use the same credentials you did for the Startup India portal while filing the application for DPIIT recognition. And if your startup does not have the DPIIT recognition, you must apply for it before requesting for the seed funds. Moving ahead, after you are signed in, access the application and fill out all the details it seeks. We have already discussed the major details and documents earlier in this video. Make sure the information you are providing are all correct and updated. Otherwise, your application runs the risk of rejection. Lastly, submit the form on the website. No application fee or hidden charges will be applicable. Yes, you heard it right. Startup India Seed Fund application does not involve a single rupee cost. Here, your application process gets completed, but you must also be aware of the selection process to analyze the chances of receiving seed funds. Selection of startups for seed funds is done in 2 stages. The first stage is shortlisting by incubator. They will examine the form and, if convinced, will shortlist it for the next stage. The second stage is shortlisting by the ISMC or Incubator Seed Management Committee. This committee is set up by each incubator individually. If the ISMC shortlists your application, consider seed funding approved for you. The last stage is the dispersal of funds. As explained at the beginning of this video, seed funds are dispersed in installments. The first installment is released within 60 days from the date on which the application is approved. Subsequent installments are released after the startup submits its progress report. Disbursals are hardly ever delayed under the seed fund scheme, which is always a plus. An important thing to note here is that a startup can apply for seed fund only once in its lifetime, and this has to be done within 2 years from its incorporation. And with this note, we have reached the end of this video. Hopefully, you now know everything about Startup India Seed Fund and its application process. If you still have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section or call our startup advisors for the free consultation. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, share and subscribe to our channel for more such informative content ahead. Click on the notification icon so that whenever we post a new video, you are the first one to get notified. Thank you for watching. Watch our other videos as well.